Did you know that there are several kinds of tracing? You know, often artists are advised not to trace because it's just copying. But when you're going to make a drawing, you need to understand the silhouette of something and try and get it accurate. So there's actually a method of tracing I haven't seen anyone talk about that I kind of stumbled across. And I'm going to talk about it here in this video. So usually people talk about tracing like you start off as a kid and you think you're going to get something simple like this, whatever it might be, and you're going to just trace around the edge of it flat. That's one way. But what you can actually do is three-dimensional tracing, and you can trace objects. So I'm going to use my own hand, and I've used this tons of times, even on my own computer screen on my Cintiq. And it can help you quickly get some accuracy and just save a lot of time. Now, of course, you could someone listening could say, well, why don't you just trace a photo? Well, yes, you could do that. I mean, there's endless photos on the internet, but if you want to keep yourself connected to real drawing and drawing three-dimensional forms in real time, excuse me, in front of you, then this method is just really, really handy. So I'll see what I can do to demonstrate what it is. And what you're trying to do is, the camera here is looking straight down. So you're going to see something a little different than what I'm seeing, because I'm back here, and I'm going to close one eye and just use one eye, and I'm going to keep my hand still and say I want to draw some kind of pose of a hand, and it's like a close-up shot or something. So I'm going to keep it in one position, and then I'm going to start tracing it. Is this a Jack Kirby hand? I don't know, but let's make it like that. I'll try not to move. And what I'm doing is keeping my head and eye in the same position and tracing around the apparent silhouette from my one fixed point of view. I'm first going around the complete silhouette and the sort of negative shapes, like as it appears to me again from my point of view. Now, of course, I can't trace inside because I can't trace through my own hand, but what I do then is, once I've got that, which is like this, I can just look at it and either move it and then just keep it as a reference over here and just easily fill in some of the other details using the key benchmarks. You guys are inflicted in watching my my hand for a bunch of minutes, but what I want to do is demonstrate this technique. It's like a real quick, if you want a shortcut, it's like a real quick shortcut. And you can refine it. I think probably by now you can see what I'm getting at here. I'm using a ballpoint pen because the line's a bit thinner, and I'm going to go for the interior lines now, which you can locate based on the silhouette. And you can modify it because the first rough lay-in of that outline was just to get the basic details. And I mean, I could really elaborate this if I wanted. If I was using pencil, make it a lot more fancy. But again, I'm doing this to give you a sense of what the basic technique is. And then once you get the hang of the idea of this, the sky's the limit, at least for small objects. Obviously, unless you're a fanatic, you can't trace a giant, I mean, you could set up a giant object in a giant piece of paper, but that would be kind of silly. I'm saying that this is a kind of time saver for getting a fairly quick drawing done from real life. I find it gives a different quality than if you just trace a photo or even trace a 3D asset, which are usually warped. You're not using your own hand, eyes, mind, and you're not cartooning it. You're not making cartoon decisions. So, okay, I've basically shown you, not the greatest drawing ever, but you can see the method. And of course, you could do it with all kinds of things, like, let's get some more paper here. Where am I at here? 4 minutes. You know, the great virtue of doing videos is you talk to yourself. I'm trying to keep these under 10 minutes and not even make them too fancy. I'm not trying to, at this point, edit them and do all that pizzazz, which I may get to, but that would slow down production. But you could do this with other things, like, for example, a perspective drawing. I could even hold it up and trace the perspective of something by closing one eye. Like, say I go like this. Oops, it's not in the camera. All right. See, it's helping me see the proportions of this. And I'm going to mark the end of it here, the midpoint. I'm measuring it against the actual object. I'm moving it out of the way here because I can't see through the object, obviously. But what I've done is basically trace the three-dimensional form, and then it's easy, like I said earlier, to fill in all the other stuff quickly. And if I was drawing, like, say, some fancy spaceship or whatever, you could use this as a stand-in and then add all the details. What it does is it gets you to think about silhouette. Whoops, I've drawn onto my other paper here. It gets you to think about silhouettes and proportions rather than just like freely, wildly drawing. And it gets you trained in observing. A last example is something like this. This is like a kind of little skull model I got from somewhere or another, but I'm just looking at my timestamp here, trying to keep these under 10 minutes. Say I choose an angle. Let's choose an interesting angle of this head. It would be better if I had some kind of rig to hold these things stable, so sometimes they wobble. But what you find is you have to close that one eye, draw it from one point of view, and do it kind of quickly before you start moving around too much. I'm going to actually even draw in this. I'm marking, you see it's going to look different in the video, but what I'm seeing from my angle is the drawing you're going to see. It's a lower angle than the top view, like I said earlier. But the minute you try this kind of thing for yourself, you'll see how it works. If you're an artist and you want something fun to try. So again, I have to kind of freelance the interior parts. I marked off the mouth line here, and I'm trying to match, from my point of view, the angle that I used. And it's like a fun game, If you have kids, you could get them to trace stuff. Of course, you'd have to be an older kid who likes drawing. A little kid wouldn't probably cotton on to this method. And okay, so I got the eye line here, looks like the brow, and I had this line where this little model comes apart. And I'm filling in the eye sockets and the nostril, the sinus cavity, teeth. I mean, I'm all about old-fashioned drawing. I've tried using 3D models and photos, and I do use them sometimes, but always modified. That's another subject for a whole video. Even greats like Norman Rockwell, the great painter, illustrator, he used photos that he took himself, but he always modified them. He didn't just like slap a photo down and trace it. So there you go. I'm talking about tracing. And trace objects. You'll see that it's a great, fun time saver, and it teaches you, to observe with your own eyes. The whole thing of it, I'm trying to summarize what's important about this. You use your own eyes in real time with real forms, and you then are working with it in real space on paper. Could be digital too. I've done this, like I said, on my screen, but you're translating what you see into lines directly. And you're not taking lines and forms that are given to you already by a photograph, like tracing that. You're actually observing real things. And of course, you could take this then and stylize it, but it helps you to kind of see. And that's what it's all about, to see with clarity. I'll stop there. Have fun. Thanks for listening. And if you like this, I'm going to keep making more of this rough and ready content for my channel. Please Like, comment, share, and subscribe. And have fun drawing always. Thank you.